Trevi, I hope most of you have heard of. I also hope that most of you have heard of Mel. She joined them relatively recently to promote communication and community and for people to understand what this amazing charity does. Just for a little bit of background briefing for those of you who've not been involved in the West Country Women Awards yet, we choose a charity of the year every single year. The first year that we launched straight after the pandemic was Charity of the Year was Trevi. That was in the year that we launched as our main categories, combating violence against women and girls, which was actually won by the CEO of Trevi. So by way of introduction, that's the best that I can do, Mel. I'm now going to hand over to you for your 15 minutes on Trevi.
Thank you so much, Alexis. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I know a few of you have also probably felt the same. I feel incredibly, I feel really proud of myself to be part of this group of speakers. So thank you for having me. But yes, I'm Mel Sevieri. I work for Trevi as the community fundraiser. But before I talk about Trevi, I just want to give you a little bit of a background of my history. So I work in the violence against women and girls industry, and I have done for 3 years, pretty much since the murder of Bobby Ann McLeod in 2021. I myself have lived experience, and working in this industry, I have come to realise that most women who work here do as well. And it's great to not feel alone. And actually, one part of this job that I have never even thought would be possible is feeling okay with my past because of all the incredible women that I've met and been able to hear their journeys of as well. So before I came to Trevi, I organised protests and marches, peaceful protests for Bobby Ann McLeod shortly after her murder. In the November, there was one in Plymouth that wasn't organised by me, but I reached out to the organisers, and then I helped with the following 4 marches over 2022. There I met some incredible counsellors and inspirational speakers, which is how I managed to progress throughout my career to this point. I met counsellor Charlotte Holloway at the marches, and I approached her to put together with me a gala for violence against women and girls in Plymouth, where I managed to raise £10,000 for Trevi and First Light. So that's how I got to know Trevi. And then over the next year, I was public speaking on the topic of violence against women and girls. I began my master's in social policy with a focus on violence against women and girls. And I then was able to be headhunted by Trevi, essentially, where they asked me to apply for this role. And I couldn't be happier. I can't explain to you how wonderful it is to work with all women, a female CEO, a whole team full of women who understand each other and have each other's backs. It really is the epitome of inclusion. And that is the theme for this year's International Women's Day, isn't it? So I'll just quickly talk to you about Trevi and the services we provide if you haven't heard of them. Hopefully most of you have, but then I will talk a little bit about inclusion and how Trevi do that through our services. So we started over 30 years ago. Last year was our 30th celebration, and we were founded by Dawn French's mum, Roma French, and 3 of her colleagues. So she had a vision back in 1993 that we could have a service that actually is only prevalent in Plymouth. There is no service in the whole of the country that does what Trevi does in our Jasmine's Mother Recovery. This is a rehab unit for mothers who are struggling with drug and alcohol abuse, and they get to bring their baby with them. And like I say, there's nowhere else that does this. Before Jasmine's Mother Recovery, we see 1 out of 10 women being allowed to keep their baby with them. But actually, when they successfully detox at Jasmine, they're able, we see the stats are around 8 out of 10 women are successfully keeping that relationship with their child and ending the generational cycle of children going into care and then maybe going on to drug and alcohol misuse themselves as well. We also have Sunflower Women's Centre, which was born from the need of the women who were at Jasmine, who really didn't want to leave Trevi. Once they successfully detoxed and they'd had all their support that they were needing, they didn't want to leave us. They didn't want to leave Plymouth. It was one of the very first safe spaces they've ever had in their life. So we opened Sunflower Women's Centre, which is a day centre. and any woman across Plymouth and the Southwest can self-refer and attend. So these women might have drug and alcohol issues. They might be fleeing domestic abuse. They might be feeling isolated and need to connect with other women, or they might have mental health issues or disabilities. They might be needing support in employability. Maybe they've not been employed for the last few years, which 80% of our women in Sunflower actually haven't. So the demographic of the women that we support is quite large. We support lots of types of women from all different backgrounds. So that is obviously open to everybody, not just Jasmine, but it was born from the women's needs. We listen to our women and they shape everything to do with Trevi. So we listened to them and opened Sunflower. And then we also have Daffodil, which is a national parenting assessment. So we are the last resort for when families have been ordered by the court to have their child taken from them. Instead of them being taken, we very much thrive on the idea that families need to stay together, children need to stay with their mum when they're in a loving environment, and we just need to put in the stepping stones and the stepping blocks to support these parents. So some parents, we've already heard today, some women go through horrific childhood trauma, they go through horrific sexual abuse more than once, and sometimes their coping mechanism is drugs and alcohol. Unless you've been in that situation, we're unable to see how these women feel, but we are able to support them and end that cycle of drug and alcohol abuse, or of not being able to parent in the way that the court sees fit. So that is what Daffodil is for. Both Jasmine and Daffodil have nurseries, so the baby can go and have their care while the mum is sitting with practitioners or counsellors. Everything we do is trauma-informed and therapeutically led. And we also, as of January this year, we have Blossom Women's House. So we already have women's accommodation in the Southwest, but what's different about Blossom is that it is predominantly for women with complex needs. So women who've maybe gone under the radar when they've needed services in the past, or women who've not had the confidence to step out and speak with their GP or speak with services that might signpost to Trevi. Blossom is specifically for them. So we're hoping to reach more women who we might not have otherwise. There's 7 bedrooms at Blossom for women to stay in for up to a year. And then we also have 2 crisis beds as well. So when we go into our outreach project weekly and we find women who are struggling, perhaps living on the street, or they might be living in mixed gender accommodation and being attacked, sexually assaulted on the weekly basis, or maybe even sofa surfing or living in completely unsafe environments, we are then able to bring them in for the evening, have a warm bed, a good night's sleep, and then they work with our team the next day. And Blossom is right next door to Sunflower. So these women, again, are encouraged to go and spend their time next door, getting all the extra support they need as well. And at Sunflower, we offer plenty of courses to support these women, from employability skills to health, nutrition, parenting skills, arts and crafts, and all sorts of different courses to get these women back on track and feeling like they are the strong women that we know they can be. So that's what I wanted to let you know about Trevi. Hopefully you know a little bit about Trevi already, but hopefully that can now give you a bit more of a rounded idea of what we do. And when Alexis asked me to speak today, I also wanted to talk a lot about inclusion and what it means to truly include all women and to ensure that we all feel a safe sense of belonging. I have written a speech, so if it sounds like I'm reading off of the laptop, it's because I am, but I will try and be as natural as possible. But I just wanted to let you know exactly what Trevi does to include all women from all backgrounds. So for equality and equity of men and women to happen, society first needs to ensure that all women are included in the fight for our rights. We need to ensure that the women who don't want children, those that don't idolise marriage and don't aspire to being a wife, those who struggle with the path they've chosen or the journey they're on, those who need more support due to mental or physical disabilities, those who are single mothers, those who are divorced, those who've been victims of domestic abuse or suicide attempts as a result of this, those who do not fit into society's version of a perfect woman, are not looked down upon by any other part of the human race. I can guarantee that all the women here, myself included, fit into one of those categories. Why are we made to feel like we aren't good enough as women because of it? We also must ensure that inclusion reaches to those women whose assertiveness and ambition has not always been agreed with by society. If they were male, society would call them a leader, but females have somehow ended up with the title bitch. We're always told how to behave, how to dress, how to succeed, how to parent, how to have fun, how to deal with failings, and how to look to attract men, as if that's something we spend our time being concerned about. We're also often told by men that we are not like other women and are supposed to feel good about that. Well, I'm going to tell you that I am exactly like other women, and we're all out here trying to survive as females in a world built for and by men. And I'm so, so proud to be a part of that group. We need to build a more varied, just and inclusive society where individuality is cherished and embraced instead of penalised in order to reach inclusivity for all women. By including all women, we're showing compassion for women everywhere, and that's exactly what Trevi does. We work with women who are often excluded from society for various reasons. Due to their difficult beginnings in life and the generational cycle of abuse and drug misuse, some of our women at Trevi face enormous and complex obstacles from the start. The stigma attached to mums who rely on using substances is rife throughout society. Mums who want to have a night off for themselves, struggling to have time to themselves, a night with the girls, spending their own money on beauty treatments, or going on a date as a single woman without judgmental input from society. So if we struggle with that, then how do mums who have extra difficulties to overcome think they're going to escape the harsh stigma? But even worse than that, this leads to them being unable to access vital services to garner the support they're so desperately in need of. Society needs to stop the witch hunt of mothers who are not equipped with the parenting skills that some individuals are privileged to have received or learned. We at Trevi help parents to address the complex and often long-standing underlying issues that will have interrupted safe parenting techniques. More progressive attitudes and inclusive practices still need to be developed on a global scale and not just in our city. Once we have care for all women and all of their circumstances, then we can begin to move forward into equality and equity for all. Of all the women that entered Trevi's Sunflower Centre, 67% have a history of domestic abuse, with 3/4 being unemployed for at least 3 years, 80% suffering from a disability of some kind, and just over 70% receiving government benefits, with ages ranging from 18 to 70. The women that find their way to us have experienced not having their voices heard while being let down by the whole of society. We're here to make this significant change for them. We do hear them, and we're going to continue hearing them and empowering them and every woman we meet, and enable her to prosper and realise her potential. We need to ensure solid foundations continue to be built upon, including appropriate laws and a cultural shift in the society's views on universally accessible public services like Trevi. Women have always persevered through difficult times and succeeded in spite of the obstacles they faced, but it could not be more critical than it is at Trevi. Through our programmes delivered at Sunflower Women's Centre, it is guaranteed that our women are supported in leadership, decision-making and business fields, that they are assisted in making beneficial health-related decisions, that they have access to high-quality education and training, and that their creative and artistic abilities are explored and encouraged. All areas that point towards a better future for women. Another field that women fall behind men in most societies is financial. Economic inclusion is a huge factor driving the inequality between men and women in 2024. Many of the women Trevi work with are mothers, especially in Jasmine and Daffodil, and statistically, a large proportion of mothers are unable to work full-time hours due to childcare and unpaid labour in the home, which equates to 10% of the driving force behind the gender pay gap in this country. Compared to men, women perform unpaid caregiving labour in the home 3 times as often, while statistically, mothers will have worked for 4 years less than the child's father by the time the child reaches 20. Not only does this have a huge impact on the woman's financial situation and independence at the time, but this also ripples through to later in life, where female pension pots are on average 1/3 smaller than that of their male counterparts. This doesn't even include the statistics for separated parents, where 9 out of 10 single parents in this country are mothers. Discrimination and harassment of women contributes the largest percentage to the gender pay gap figures at 25%, with women being unable to work full-time also contributing. It's also estimated that by the UN Women that by the year 2030, over 340 million women and girls worldwide could be living in extreme poverty if present trends continue. The government must enhance public investment on social safety and critical women's services in order to guarantee the improvement of female lives across the board. At Trevi, we work with women who are likely to come from low-income backgrounds with a history of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. They are more likely to have job roles that pay far less than those that men hold, or women who are from a more affluent demographic, with many of our women coming from the most deprived areas of Plymouth. The occupational segregation between men and women is already prominent in this country and increases for the most vulnerable women of society. Only by ensuring we reach women who are vulnerable first will we be able to make a change for all women. And as it's International Women's Day today, I thought I would invite all the women on the call today to just take a moment, either now or later today, to reflect on the stepping stones or the obstacles that you've had to face and you've overcome to get to where you are now. I think every woman on this call is incredible, whether you're speaking or listening. Look at what we're doing today with our time. Like Brandy was saying, this is our protected time and we're choosing to spend our energy helping women. So have a think about how much you need to celebrate all of your achievements today. This day is for us, for women, and we need to really embrace that. Thank you.
Mel, thank you very much. Thank you, really, thank you so very much, Mel, and thank you for making the time to come to us. You know, you are another fantastic example of somebody who stepped up and stepped up and stepped up. I'm so proud to see you in this role, to listen to you delivering with confidence and clarity, the messages that you're giving. For those of you who don't know, you know, I met Mel 3 or so years ago when she was determinedly putting her first foot on this path of you know, raising awareness about combating violence against women and girls, and to see this young woman blossom and grow in the way that she has done is an absolute privilege, Mel. So thank you very, very much. We're going to